Hey everyone, Jack Mullally here and welcome back to Ideanthro. Now, quite often people come up to me and go, hey Jack, you talk a lot about bioretention systems and this sort of thing. You talk about how to maintain them, but how much research do we have into how well they actually work? Like, what do we know about that? And it's a good question, yeah, because in Australia at least, we're spending a lot of money putting these systems in the ground, putting these bioretention systems in, and of course, we want to know that they work, so we know that that money is being spent well. So what I wanted to do today is to show you some sites, some resources, that sort of thing, where you can go to find bioretention research that you can look at yourself and make up your own mind. I'm not going to sit here and wax lyrical about how well they do or don't work to you from my own opinion. I'm going to give you the tools so you can go and look into it yourself. So we're going to run through a few different sites. You can see the web browser set up here with a few things open. You will be able to, as we go along, you'll be able to see the web address so you can go to it yourself. And yeah, hopefully you find this interesting. So the first thing here is there is a lot of peer-reviewed published literature on this sort of thing, which is great so long as you can access those journal articles through a subscription like a uni or that sort of thing. So I can remember looking into journal articles or doing a lot of searches of the university database while I was still at uni into this sort of thing for some particular projects, and I kept searching that even after I graduated for the first couple of years. And there are lots of different research papers out there that you can look at and have a read of. If you search, like find a decent database and search common terms like bioretention or rain garden or that sort of thing that's specifically related to these bioretention systems. Now, to give you a quick indication of how much is out there, I've pulled up my my old filing here, and this is a folder that I still have, which I haven't really added to in recent times, but this is an example of a whole bunch of different papers about bioretention performance that I have found over the years. I can't guarantee you that I've read all of them, but I've certainly collected all of them and hoarded them. But they're useful resources, and it just demonstrates that there's plenty of stuff out there if you want to. Now, there are some other ways that we can go about getting papers about bioretention systems, and conferences are a good one. So in Australia, a popular and really good conference is the International Water Sensitive Urban Design Conference. So the most recent version of this was held in Sydney in 2015, and it's a great conference. There is always plenty of bioretention research published at that particular conference. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, tonight the website for this conference is down, so I can't show it to you, and I'm just showing you this Google search here, but hopefully that'll be back up again and you can go through there. If you can't, I'm quite confident that this edition of the conference and the previous versions of it, that their proceedings are published as a journal article of sorts. So you should be able to get that through through a database search, through a university library or that sort of thing, if you're having trouble with the website. Another conference, switching to an international, an international conference here, is the Low Impact Development Conference. Now, I've always had a perception of this as an American conference, but as you can evidently tell from the one coming up this year in 2016, which is going to be in Beijing, that it's more than just an American conference. But previous conferences to this one, I have seen plenty of bioretention research pop up there, so that's probably worth a look as well. StormCon is a big stormwater conference in America. I've certainly seen on the previous versions of this one, so the Indianapolis version of that should be the 2016 one, if I'm correct. Yes, it is. But previous versions of that, I have found abstracts and papers for, and certainly been plenty of bioretention research there from the American point of view. And then bringing it back to Australia, there's been a lot of research over the past 10 years or even more into this sort of thing. Monash Uni in particular has been very active in this space under a few different names for this research platform. So the first one was the Facility for Advancing Water Biofiltration, also known as FORB. So FORB did a whole bunch of research into bioretention systems and related topics, and you can access a fair bit of that stuff through this website here. FORB then integrated first into Monash Water for livability, and then into the CRC for water sensitive cities. So you can also find some research, again, from this similar kind of group in Monash, popping up on those two websites. So this is Monash Water for livability, just here, and then the CRC for water sensitive cities just here, which is an ongoing research project. So that's one to keep an eye on as more stuff comes out. Now, of course, what I'm showing you here is just a selection. I'm sure that there is some other, it's not the case of I'm sure, there is other research that I'm not mentioning here, and I apologize to anyone whose research doesn't pop into this quick little introduction to where you can find research, because it's exactly that. We're not aiming to be absolutely comprehensive today, but we're aiming to give you the tools to be able to go out and find this stuff for yourself if you're interested. So another person who has done research in this space is Margaret Greenway from Griffith University. So Margaret is Queensland based, so a little bit closer to home for me. And Margaret has done research into bioretention systems along with PhD students studying with her and so on. This is Margaret's profile on the Griffith Uni website. For some reason, her journal articles are thoroughly outdated on here. There's definitely more recent research than 2005, but nonetheless, this would be a good starting point to find Margaret's research. Now, something that people ask me really frequently is, hey Jack, it's all well and good, you've just showed me a whole bunch of laboratory-based research here. How much research do we have into the performance of bioretention systems in the real world? And that's a really good question, right? And the honest answer is we could probably do with more, but there is some stuff you can look at. Now, before you look at it, you need to understand that there are a few different ways that you can monitor bioretention systems in the real world. At one end of the spectrum, you can find a real world system and set up automated samplers in it and wait till it rains and then collect water as it comes into the system and out of the system, do the relevant stats and figure out how well that system performs. That's really useful. It's also quite expensive because you need automated samplers and lots of samples, and then you get storm events that don't give you enough data and all sorts of stuff, right? The other option is to, and this works for smaller bioretention systems, is to create a synthetic stormwater. So to get water, mix it up so that it mimics stormwater, then find this smaller bioretention system and pour that water into it. And you collect samples of the water going in and the water going out, and you can do the stats and you can figure out how well that system's performing. There's been research of both types in Australia and in Queensland. I'll mention a couple of Queensland examples here. So Nathaniel Parker was a master's student at QUT in Brisbane, and he looked at the performance of a wetland, and I believe it's a couple of bioretention systems, certainly at least one, in Coomera Waters, which is a development in the Gold Coast, the northern end of the Gold Coast in southeast Queensland. And so Nathaniel there's a journal article on this page, it's a conference paper, and there's his full thesis there. So you can look into that sort of thing. It will obviously give you information about bioretention design, but if you look into the methods, did I say bioretention design? I mean bioretention performance, sorry about that. But it will also give you a good indication into the challenges of monitoring bioretention systems or any stormwater treatment system, whether that's a wetland, a bioretention system, a proprietary product. This will give you a bit of an indication, I think, of the challenges of monitoring a system because it goes into the experimental setup and that sort of thing. There's also been research using these dosing regimes. For example, Brisbane City Council a number of years ago had a couple of streetscape bioretention systems in the north of the city, and they dosed those with synthetic stormwater and collected data on those. I also know of a little bit of other similar research done in other parts of southeast Queensland, which might not be published just yet, but there's stuff out there, right? So that's where we come to an end of this summary of places where you can go to find bioretention research. It's by no means comprehensive, but hopefully it's given you a bit of an indication that you can go out and find relevant conferences. There are research facilities, there are universities, there are even some companies, although public entities, in the case of Brisbane City Council, doing research and this sort of thing. And hopefully that if you're interested in how well these systems perform, this gives you the tools to go out there and look into it yourself so you can make up your own mind about, how these systems are doing. Okay, well that's it for this episode. I hope you found that useful. If you would like to find out more about what it is we do at Ideanthro, more of our episodes and that sort of thing, there's a bunch of different ways that you can contact us. So number one, our website, www.ideanthro.com, has all our episodes, has our projects, also has a sign up for a mailing list. So if you want to receive an email every time we release a new episode, you can sign up there. You just go to the front page at the website that I just mentioned, you scroll all the way to the bottom and there's a quick sign up form there. You can also find us on Facebook. So if you want to, you can like the page and you can keep up to date with what we're doing that way. We post our videos and a few other tidbits on there on Facebook. So that's simply facebook.com/Ideanthro. And finally, we host all our videos on YouTube, so you can find our channel and you can keep an eye on it that way. Cool. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed, but until next time, have a good time and we'll see you soon. Cheers. Bye.